The room was dimly lit, the kind of place where shadows played tricks on the mind. I sat at a long oak table, staring at a map spread before me, dotted with various locations across the United States. Each mark was a potential site for my next investigation, sites where sea cryptids had been sighted. As a paranormal investigator for the government, I was accustomed to bizarre reports, but this case was different. It all began with a call from a government agent who specialized in unexplained phenomena. He had a reputation for being pragmatic, so when he spoke in a hushed tone about sightings off the coast of Maine, I knew I had to pay attention. "We need someone with your experience, particularly in the oceanic environment," he said, his voice trembling slightly. "There's been talk of something large, something that shouldn't be there." I could feel the thrill coursing through my veins. The ocean had always fascinated me, its depths hiding countless mysteries. I packed my gear, high-tech cameras, underwater drones, and all the necessary equipment to document whatever lay beneath the waves. The thought of encountering something unknown sent chills down my spine, both from fear and excitement. Arriving in Maine, the air was thick with fog, and the salty scent of the sea enveloped me. The locals whispered tales of monstrous creatures lurking beneath the surface, gigantic eels, serpents, and even a massive leviathan that had supposedly devoured boats whole. I could see the unease in their eyes. They had witnessed things they couldn't explain. My first night was spent in a small coastal town where I met a local fisherman named Gus. He was weathered, his skin toughened by years spent battling the elements. Over a cup of black coffee, he recounted his experiences. "I was out late one night, just me and my boat, when I saw something huge moving under the water," he said, his voice dropping to a whisper. "It wasn't a whale, it was something different. It circled my boat for what felt like hours. I could see its eyes, yellow and haunting. I swear it was watching me." As he spoke, the air grew thick with tension. I leaned in closer, captivated, yet unsettled. "Did you report it?" I asked, knowing full well the skepticism surrounding such claims. Gus shook his head, fear etched on his face. "Who would believe me? They'd laugh me out of town. But I know what I saw." His words weighed heavy in the air as I returned to my hotel room, a creaky old building that seemed to groan with every gust of wind. The distant sound of waves crashing against the shore echoed in my mind, each crash heightening my anticipation. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was waiting for me out there, lurking in the depths. The next morning, I set out on my boat, a sturdy vessel equipped for deep-sea exploration. As I drifted away from the shore, I glanced back at the town, its quaint charm fading into the mist. I was alone now, and the vast expanse of water stretched endlessly before me, a seemingly tranquil surface that belied the horrors it might conceal. Hours passed with little to report. My underwater drone scouted the area, sending back live feeds of the ocean floor, where seaweed swayed gently in the currents. Fish darted about, oblivious to the danger above. I kept my camera ready, hoping to capture something, anything, that would provide a clue to the legends. Then, as the sun dipped low on the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, my drone's sonar detected an anomaly beneath the surface. My heart raced as I navigated closer, the tension in the air thickening with every passing moment. The sonar blipped rhythmically, an eerie pulse that resonated deep within me. "Come on, show me something," I murmured, gripping the controls tightly. The drone descended, and I watched the screen intently. The image was murky at first, but then it cleared, revealing a massive shape, something colossal and serpentine, coiling through the water like a living shadow. My breath caught in my throat as I focused the camera, capturing the elusive creature in its natural habitat. It had scales that shimmered, reflecting the fading light above, and eyes that were strikingly intelligent and unnervingly aware. Just then, the creature turned, locking onto the drone with a gaze that sent a chill down my spine. Panic surged through me. I was an observer, a seeker of truth, yet in that moment, I felt like prey. The drone's camera feed flickered, and before I could react, it vanished from the screen. The sonar blipped erratically, the creature moving faster than I could follow. I quickly pulled the drone back, my heart pounding in my chest. But it was too late. The water erupted as something breached the surface, a monstrous wave crashing against my boat. I barely managed to keep my balance as I scrambled to regain control. The last thing I saw before it submerged was the creature's massive silhouette, glistening wet, its eyes glowing like beacons in the dusk. I was shaken, hands trembling as I struggled to regain my composure. The creature had vanished beneath the waves, leaving nothing but chaos in its wake. My mind raced as I processed what had just happened. I had seen it, a cryptid, just as the locals had claimed. Yet, the thrill was quickly replaced by a gnawing fear. I radioed the command center, relaying what I had witnessed. "You won't believe this," I said, my voice cracking slightly. "I saw it. I saw the creature." "Can you describe it?" the agent on the other end asked, sounding skeptical. "Long and serpentine, with scales that shimmered. I hesitated, recalling the gaze that seemed to pierce my very soul. It had eyes, intelligent eyes. There was silence on the line, followed by a terse, "We'll need you to return to shore immediately. We want to assess your equipment and review the footage." Reluctantly, I turned the boat around, the weight of the encounter heavy on my shoulders. As I navigated back to the dock, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the water. The ocean, once inviting, now felt like a dark abyss, hiding secrets best left undisturbed. Upon docking, I was met by a team of agents, their faces grim and serious. They ushered me to a small, windowless room filled with monitors and equipment. I felt like I was being interrogated, every detail of my encounter dissected under their piercing gazes. "Let's see the footage," one agent commanded, his voice low and steady. I uploaded the data, my heart racing as I watched the screen flicker to life. But when the footage began to play, my stomach dropped. The drone's feed showed nothing but distorted images and static. The anomaly I had seen, the creature, everything was gone, erased as if it had never existed. "What the hell?" I gasped, my mind racing to comprehend. There was something there, I swear. The agents exchanged glances, their expressions inscrutable. "There are ways to manipulate digital recordings," one finally said, his tone dismissive. "We need more evidence." Frustrated, I insisted. "I know what I saw. We can't let this go. People need to know." "We're aware of the potential risks," another agent interjected. "But until we have concrete evidence, we cannot proceed. We suggest you take a few days to gather yourself, head back to the shore and observe again." With that, I was dismissed. I left the facility, anger boiling within me. They didn't understand. I had come face to face with the unknown, and I wasn't about to let it slip through my fingers. That night, I returned to the docks, armed with a notebook and a sense of determination. I set up camp on the beach, hoping to catch another glimpse of the creature. The moon hung high, casting a silvery glow over the water, and I felt an unsettling mix of fear and excitement. Hours passed in silence. I scribbled notes about my encounter, my mind racing with possibilities. I recalled Gus's tales, the fear in his eyes. What if we weren't alone? What if there were things out there lurking just beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to strike? Suddenly, a splash broke the stillness, sending a jolt through me. I froze, heart pounding as I peered into the darkness. The water shimmered ominously, and for a moment, I thought I saw something, a flicker of movement in the depths. I grabbed my flashlight, its beam cutting through the night like a knife. As I swept it over the water, my breath hitched. There, just below the surface, I caught sight of something large, a shadow moving gracefully through the waves. Without thinking, I plunged into the icy water, adrenaline surging as I swam toward the shape. The cold gripped me, numbing my senses, but I pressed on, driven by an insatiable curiosity. The creature seemed to sense my presence, darting away into the depths. I followed, heart racing, the beam of my flashlight illuminating the dark water. Suddenly, I felt a powerful surge beneath me, the water churning violently as the creature breached the surface nearby. I gasped as it erupted from the ocean, a titanic figure glistening in the moonlight. It was more magnificent and terrifying than I could have imagined. Its scales shimmered like polished silver, and its body coiled in the water, reflecting the moonlight in ethereal patterns. The eyes, those piercing, intelligent eyes, fixed on me, and I felt a primal fear wash over me. This was not just a creature, it was a force of nature. As I treaded water, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being studied, my very existence weighed and measured by this ancient being. Then, without warning, it dove beneath the surface, creating a wave that sent me tumbling. I struggled to regain my balance, gasping for air as I fought against the current. When I finally resurfaced, I looked around frantically. The creature had vanished, but the ocean felt different now, charged with an unseen energy. I swam back to shore, my mind racing with questions. What had I witnessed? What secrets lay beneath the waves? Once back on shore, I stumbled onto the sand, drenched and panting. My mind was a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions, the adrenaline slowly fading but leaving behind a residue of fear. I had encountered a cryptid, yet I felt no sense of triumph. Only dread loomed over me like the dark clouds gathering on the horizon. As I collapsed onto the sand, the weight of my discoveries pressed down on me. I scribbled notes feverishly in my journal, trying to capture every detail before they slipped away like the tide. The creature's eyes haunted me, a reflection of something deep and primal that resonated within me. I barely slept that night, the sound of waves crashing against the shore echoing in my ears. I kept replaying the encounter in my mind, the shimmering scales, the intelligence behind its gaze. It felt like an ancient guardian of the ocean, something that had existed long before humanity had ever set foot on the shore. Morning came with a thick fog that clung to the coastline like a shroud. I could barely see a few feet ahead, and the air felt charged, crackling with electricity. I decided to return to the docks, determined to share my experience with Gus and gather more information about the legends of the sea. Gus was at the docks, his boat bobbing gently on the waves. He looked up as I approached, concern etching his features. "You're back. I was worried something had happened to you." "I saw it, Gus. I saw the creature," I exclaimed, the words tumbling out in a rush. I recounted my encounter, the shadows beneath the waves, the eyes that seemed to peer into my very soul. He listened intently, nodding slowly. "You're not the first to see it. It's been around for generations, a legend that the old ones spoke of. They called it Akar, a guardian of the sea." "Akar," I repeated, the name rolling off my tongue like an incantation. "What else do you know?" Gus leaned closer, his voice low and urgent. "They say Akar protects the ocean's balance. It's been known to take boats down to the depths if it feels threatened or if someone disrespects the sea." The weight of his words settled heavily on me. I had invaded its territory, chased it in the dark waters. Had I provoked it? The thought sent chills down my spine. "We need to find out more," I insisted. "There must be records, something that explains the sightings." "Most folks don't talk about it," Gus said, his gaze distant. "Fear keeps the legends alive. But there's an old library in town, archives of local lore. We could check there." Together, we ventured to the library, a small, dusty building that seemed to hold centuries of secrets within its walls. We scoured through old newspapers, journals, and local accounts of sea creatures. The stories grew more bizarre, each tale more chilling than the last. One account stood out, a sailor's journal from the 1800s. The handwriting was shaky, ink stained with salt and time. It spoke of a voyage into the depths, a monstrous serpent that had risen from the abyss, swallowing crewmen whole and dragging ships into the dark waters. The sailor described how the creature had eyes like flames, an unyielding hunger that could never be sated. As I read, a sense of foreboding settled over me. The more I learned, the more I felt the weight of responsibility for uncovering this truth. What had I awakened? What had I invited into our world? That night, I returned to my makeshift camp on the beach, unable to shake the unease that gripped me. The moon hung high, its pale light illuminating the churning waves. I felt an inexplicable pull, as if the ocean itself was calling to me, beckoning me closer. Suddenly, the water erupted again, a massive splash sending droplets cascading in every direction. My heart raced as I squinted into the darkness, the shadows shifting beneath the surface. Was it the creature, or was it something else entirely? I grabbed my flashlight, illuminating the water, and there it was, a massive fin slicing through the waves, a reminder of the ancient beings that lurked beneath. But as I focused my beam, the fin vanished, replaced by a series of ripples that danced across the surface. The air grew thick with tension, and I felt a shiver run down my spine. I could no longer deny it. Whatever lay beneath the waves was aware of me, watching, waiting, and I was intruding on its domain. As the night wore on, the waves crashed louder, an ominous symphony of nature's power. I paced along the shore, the sand cool beneath my feet. I felt the urge to return to the water, to confront the creature once more, but fear held me back. What if it was angered? What if it wanted revenge? Suddenly, a chilling howl echoed through the night, a sound that pierced the darkness. It was unlike anything I had ever heard, raw, primal, and filled with rage. I turned toward the water, heart pounding. The moonlight shimmered on the surface, revealing something massive and dark just below. A wave crashed violently against the shore, and I stumbled back, fear gripping me tightly. I needed to escape, to get away from the ocean before it consumed me. As I ran toward my vehicle, the howling intensified, mingling with the sound of the waves, a warning carried by the wind. I fumbled for my keys, panic rising within me. What had I awakened? The legends were no longer just stories, they were warnings. I had trespassed into a world that should have remained untouched, and now the consequences were becoming clear. The next morning, I awoke with a pounding headache and a sense of dread hanging over me. I had hardly slept, the howling from the night before echoing in my mind. I quickly gathered my things and made my way back to the docks, the weight of my discoveries pressing down on me like an anchor. Gus was already there, waiting with a concerned expression. "You look like you've seen a ghost," he said, his eyes searching mine. "I'm not sure what I've seen," I admitted, feeling the weight of my experiences pressing heavily on my shoulders. "But it's worse than I thought. There's something out there, and it's angry." "What do you mean?" Gus asked, leaning closer. I explained the howling, the feeling of being watched. "It's as if I'm being hunted now. I don't think we can ignore this any longer. We need to warn the others." Gus nodded, but uncertainty clouded his features. "Most folks won't listen. They'll just call you crazy, just like they did to me. But if it's really as dangerous as you say, we can't let it go unchecked," I replied, determination surging within me. "We need to gather evidence. I want to get back out there and document everything. We need a plan." Together, we set out to rally support from the local fishermen and townsfolk, hoping to unite them against the threat we now knew was real. But as we spoke, I was met with skepticism and fear. Whispers followed us, tales of foolishness and madness for disturbing the creature's domain. Frustrated, I returned to my hotel room, the walls feeling like they were closing in around me. I rifled through my notes, trying to make sense of everything. The legend spoke of a car, the guardian of the ocean, but what had it become? Had it turned from protector to predator? That night, as I prepared to head back to the shore, a strange feeling settled over me. I couldn't shake the sense of foreboding, as if something was watching me from the depths. I stood on the beach, the moon casting eerie shadows over the water, and whispered a silent prayer to whatever spirits resided in the sea. I took a deep breath, readying myself for what lay ahead. This time, I wouldn't just be an observer, I would be a guardian too. As I waded into the water, the cold embraced me, a stark reminder of the power beneath the surface. The waves lapped against my skin, and I steadied my flashlight, scanning the depths for any signs of movement. The ocean was quiet, almost too quiet, and the tension in the air felt palpable. Suddenly, the water erupted around me, and I stumbled backward, heart racing. A massive tail thrashed through the waves, sending spray flying in every direction. My breath caught in my throat as I stumbled back, and I could hear the howling again, louder, angrier, a warning echoing in the night. I was caught between awe and terror as the creature broke the surface, revealing its massive form. It loomed before me, its scales glinting in the moonlight, eyes burning with an unearthly light. I felt drawn to it, but a voice in my mind screamed to flee. "Please, I mean no harm," I shouted, my voice trembling. "I just want to understand." The creature paused, its gaze piercing into my soul. Time seemed to stand still as I stared into the depths of its eyes, the ancient wisdom and fury contained within. I felt a connection, a recognition that transcended words. Then, with a powerful swipe of its tail, the creature submerged, leaving a whirlpool in its wake. I stumbled back, struggling to stay afloat as the waves crashed around me. Panic surged within me. It had chosen to spare me this time, but what would happen next? As I gasped for breath, I realized the enormity of my situation. I had crossed a threshold that could never be undone. There was no turning back now. I had to face whatever came next. The days that followed were a blur of preparation and dread. I spent every waking moment researching, gathering equipment, and speaking to anyone who might know more about Akar and the legends surrounding it. Gus helped where he could, but even he seemed haunted by what I had unleashed. Despite our efforts, the town remained skeptical. People avoided us, whispers trailing behind us like shadows. Yet, I felt an urgency building within me, a need to confront the creature and uncover the truth before it was too late. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the world in hues of crimson and gold, I stood on the beach, staring into the depths. The ocean was alive, and I could feel it calling to me once more. I needed to know if Akar was a guardian or a predator, and I couldn't do that from the safety of the shore. I decided to dive deeper into the ocean, armed with a new underwater camera and a protective suit that would allow me to withstand the freezing temperatures. The moment I hit the water, the chill enveloped me, but I pressed on, driven by a mix of fear and determination. As I descended, the world around me transformed into a realm of shadows and light. Fish darted in and out of the beams from my flashlight, but my focus remained steady on the depths. I felt a connection growing, a tether to something ancient and powerful. Then, the sonar on my equipment began to ping wildly, a chaotic rhythm that sent my heart racing. The creature was nearby. I swam deeper, each stroke taking me further from the surface and closer to the unknown. The pressure built around me, but I pressed on, adrenaline fueling my resolve. Suddenly, the water erupted as Akar breached the surface, revealing its colossal form in all its terrifying glory. My heart raced as I struggled to capture the moment on my camera. The creature's scales glistened, reflecting the dim light in mesmerizing patterns. Its eyes locked onto mine, a silent acknowledgement of our shared existence. But this time, something felt different. The air was thick with tension, a palpable anger radiating from the creature. I could feel its frustration, the years of being misunderstood and feared. In that moment, I realized that I wasn't just documenting a cryptid. I was confronting a living embodiment of the ocean's fury. "Please, listen to me," I shouted, my voice barely a whisper beneath the waves. "I want to understand." Akar paused, tilting its massive head as if contemplating my words. The intensity of its gaze bore into me, and I felt an overwhelming sense of vulnerability. Was this creature merely a guardian, or had it been driven to protect its domain out of necessity? The waves churned violently, and I felt the pull of the current as the creature thrashed beneath me. I fought to keep my position, desperate to convey my intentions. I didn't want to be an enemy, I wanted to be an ally. As if sensing my plea, Akar surged forward, the water swirling around us in a chaotic dance. I clung to my camera, capturing the raw power of the moment. The sheer force of its presence was awe-inspiring and terrifying all at once. In that instant, I understood the depth of our connection. The ocean had been a source of life, mystery, and fear for centuries, and now I was part of that story. My role was not just to investigate, but to bridge the gap between humanity and the creatures of the sea. But just as quickly as it began, the moment dissolved into chaos. Akar roared, a primal sound that echoed through the water, and suddenly, a throng of smaller creatures appeared, circling around us. They were smaller versions of the serpent, but equally majestic and fierce. The ocean was alive with their presence, a reminder of the intricate web of life that existed beneath the surface. I felt a surge of fear as they surrounded me, their movements quick and erratic. Akar's eyes blazed with intensity, as if protecting me from the swarm. The energy shifted, and I realized I was caught in a battle between the forces of nature and my own fate. Just then, a surge of dark clouds rolled in above the surface, and the wind howled like a banshee. Thunder rumbled in the distance, and the waves grew tumultuous, crashing against one another with a ferocity I had never witnessed. The ocean was angry, and it was reacting to something deep within its depths. In a moment of desperation, I looked into Akar's eyes, pleading for understanding. "I'm on your side," I shouted, hoping my voice could pierce through the chaos. "I want to help." Akar's gaze softened, and I felt a moment of connection, an understanding that transcended words. It was a guardian, a protector, and in that moment, I knew I had to prove my worthiness. Suddenly, the thrumming chaos below began to settle. The smaller creatures swirled around Akar, their movements calming as the giant serpent coiled protectively around me. I felt the waves shift, a current guiding me upward as I floated in the embrace of the guardian. The storm above raged on, but beneath the surface, a strange tranquility enveloped us. I realized that I had been given a rare opportunity, a chance to witness the balance of nature, the delicate dance between predator and prey. As I emerged from the depths, gasping for air, I turned back to the ocean, where a car had vanished into the abyss. I understood that my journey was far from over. There were secrets still waiting to be uncovered, truths that had been buried beneath the waves for far too long. The night sky was painted with stars, the storm receding into the distance. As I stood on the beach, the wind tousling my hair, I knew I had been changed forever. I had faced my fears, confronted the unknown, and forged a bond with the guardian of the sea. And in that moment, I realized that the greatest mystery of all was not just the creatures lurking beneath the surface, but the connection we shared with the natural world. A reminder that we are all part of the same story, intertwined in the tapestry of life. With renewed purpose, I turned my gaze back toward the ocean, ready to embrace whatever awaited me in the depths of the unknown.